What I wanted to take you through was a project we did probably a couple of years ago now, but it's something that's been very sort of close to my heart in some ways, and I think one of the projects we've done that's had a really good influence, and I think it sort of reinforces this thought that I certainly have about being able to use design for doing a bit of good society-wise and things like that. We did a lot of work for the British Heart Foundation over several years, and one of the things they asked us to work on was something called a child bereavement pack, fundamentally about something they could give out to children who'd lost somebody, mainly for heart disease, but even for another illness. You know, it could be their parents, or it could be a sibling or a friend of theirs, and about how do they cope with bereavement. So we did quite a lot of research, and there's quite a lot of books if you look on Amazon. Again, all either really worthy and quite academic about how to deal with grief, or almost a bit too light-hearted, and you feel like they're not taking the subject seriously enough. So we worked with, BHF had found a fantastic storyteller called Catrice Worsley, and she wrote this story about somebody called Small Creature, who was basically a creature who has a friend called Bird, and Bird disappears one day in the forest, and Small Creature doesn't know where he's gone, and so spends this time on a sort of journey trying to find him. We talked to Catrice and the BHF, some of their bereavement counsellors, tried to find out a bit of knowledge about the sort of background. And one of the things they talked about was the fact that, especially for young children, it's things like having a memory of the person they've lost, and also to produce something quite tactile. So, we worked with a fantastic illustrator called Rebecca Sutherland, who worked on this character almost. And we wanted to make sure he could change his emotions in a very simple sort of way. So he doesn't have arms, he just has these two legs and these two eyes, and this whole range of emotions comes across through that. So what we wanted to do was produce this pack, which I can show you some pictures of as well, which comes in this little cloth bag, and the key part really was to produce a little felt toy almost. And it's very much sort of hand-sized, and the idea that the child can keep this as a little memento and stick it in their pocket and sort of screw it up. And it was almost based on the idea of fuzzy felt, something that was very tactile, and you could make little scenes and things. So Small Creature was done like this. It was cut in lots of different colours, so you could sort of choose the colour you liked. So we did that, and then we produced the storybook based on Catrice's story, which using Becky's illustrations. Again, the material for the cover itself is very tactile, almost like felt, and it's all based around on these almost sort of negative space shapes. So the idea of something that's missing. So Small Creature starts off. The first scene he's looking at, he's with Bird, who's his friend, who's singing a song, and everyone's jolly and happy and all this sort of thing. And then at some point, Bird disappears, and it's his journey, Small Creature's journey to find him. And he goes through, I think this is quite a good example really, where just through these wonderful illustrations really, that his emotion just changes, and he changes colour because he's feeling happy or sad or bewildered. And then he basically goes on this long journey through these forests, and as he goes along he meets these different characters. But again, within the illustration, this impression of Bird is hidden amongst the rocks. So it basically takes him through this whole story, and it also takes you through a whole series of little almost exercises. And this again was talking Catrice and the bereavement counsellors, that children like to sort of play act and sort of do little scenes. So we had a very simple idea of being able to have little scenes from the story, and what happens is you do things like this, where you take these little rocks and you write memories of the person that is missing, and the things you miss about them, and your feelings about those people, and you can build a little story almost around those things. And I think the idea being that as you write down memories on little tags and you hang them on a tree, or you write them on these rocks, or you assign memories to things like little buttons which are in the story, it helps you cope and understand why you're feeling how you're feeling. I think it's just a lovely thing for the British Heart Foundation to decided to produce, and hopefully by doing it really well, it'll reach more children and help them cope with obviously what's a horrendous time in their lives, really.